Welcome to this special edition of Upfront, inside Atlanta's entertainment industry, where we'll be celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. We'll be talking to former artistic director, Ms. Judith Jamison, as well as Brian Tolleson, the CEO of the beautiful Center for Civil and Human Rights. We decided to shoot the special here because of Mr. Ailey's activism and his stance as an LGBT activist and a lover of human rights. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this edition of Upfront.
For decades, the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater has thrilled audiences around the world with show-stopping dance moves, larger-than-life costumes, and edge-of-your-seat performances. Founded in 1958 by the late dancer and choreographer Alvin Ailey, the company has traveled to 6 continents and has been seen by more audiences than any other modern dance troupe. From Revelations to Blue Suite to Timeless Ailey, each performance celebrates the human spirit through the African-American cultural experience, thus cementing their legacy as cultural ambassadors to the world. Mr. Ailey once said, "Dance came from the people, and it should always be delivered back to the people." And they've been giving back for 60 years.
So we're going to be talking to Mr. Brian Tolleson, who is the CEO of the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. We're going to be talking about this amazing relationship that you guys have had with Ailey. Let's talk about this love affair that you've had with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. They have been coming to the center for a number of years now as part of a sort of pre-promotion of their February engagements that they usually do here in the city of Atlanta at the Fox Theater. And it's always, you know, we're always excited about getting that email or that newsletter that says that they're going to be at the center. So let's talk about that.
And we're excited when it's time for them to come. Yeah. I mean, it has been a love affair. And I think, you know, one of the great things that our facility does is it's unique in that it was Phil Freelon, who designed the African American History and Culture Museum on the Mall in DC, also designed our building, but in deep collaboration with George Wolfe, the famous playwright, sort of theater genius. And I think because they're two artists who are working in different art forms, who really collaborated on the creation of the center, it sort of feels like a place for art, you know, and it feels like a place for art with a purpose. And so I think that's where the alignment with Ailey is just such a natural fit, because, you know, the company's been doing this work for so long, and it just, we sort of called to each other, I think, very mission-driven places created by artists. And so I think that's where the love affair really sort of stems from, is the visionaries with, you know, Phil Freelon and George Wolfe and Alvin Ailey. You know, they all cut from the same genius cloth.
Yeah. And you mentioned Mr. Freelon, who's also married to Nina Freelon, the amazing jazz singer. So you're absolutely right.
Exactly.
There's jazz, there's music, there's dance in the DNA of the center.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. Ailey's performance. What do you enjoy the most about seeing an Ailey performance?
I mean, there is a purpose to his performances that I think, you know, I guess every choreographer tries to sort of communicate a message. But I think there's statements of society that are so true in the work, and I think I'm a dance performance fan anyway, and so I enjoy many different kinds of dance performances. But an Alvin Ailey performance, you know, you're going to feel better when you leave than when you came in. You know, you're going to feel better about humanity, and I think that's there's hope in it, right? There's sort of hope baked in the performance, and I think that the company's always managed to keep that, and we're big on hope around here. You know, it's sort of what we talk about a lot.
Part of the mantra. So how did the center feel when Hope Boykin, who's one of the principal dancers of the company, she created this amazing work, Revolutionary Dream, that was based off of a visit that she had here at the center during one of those engagements. How did you guys feel about that?
Well, obviously we were honored and thrilled that, you know, chose us to sort of feature in her work. But again, it's sort of, George Wolfe did such an incredible job here, and he's such a prolific storyteller, and the way he tells the story involves you in the story, and I think it would be very natural for people to get swept up in it. And I think we all get swept up in it. Every visitor that comes to our doors sort of gets swept up in the storytelling.
Yeah.
And I can see where that happened for her too. I mean, we all experience it. We see people who come in the center every day who experience that involvement in George's work. And I think, we were just lucky to have such a gifted storyteller, create this place.
Yeah. And it was interesting, I remember from the conversation with her, she just said that as she was creating the work, she could just recall the speech and the moment that she sat down. There's the area here in the museum where you can sort of sit down and you can sort of listen, and listen to just all of what was being said, what was going through his mind at that time during the civil rights movement, and she was just, again, just so inspired by that. Let's talk about Mr. Ailey as the human rights activist. They've been very vocal about their support for LGBTQ rights.
Right.
They've also been very active in the awareness and prevention of HIV. We all know that Mr. Ailey, of course, succumbed to HIV/AIDS, and he died on World AIDS Day, December the 1st. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, we are actually about to host a section of the AIDS quilt here at the center, because we want to talk about healthcare as a human right. And we want to talk about that no matter the color of your skin, no matter your sexual orientation, that healthcare is a right that you should have. And the danger and the, sorry, let me start that thought over. The thought that an epidemic can come and be created when you don't treat people like they deserve health care. And so we really appreciate how much Ailey has focused on that story. And the dance community was really impacted. Especially the New York City dance community was devastated because of the AIDS crisis. And people weren't getting treatment, people weren't getting drugs. And the quilt was such a powerful message to our government, to our leaders, that people deserve healthcare, people deserve to be treated. And I think his advocacy during the time of the crisis was crucial, and so we see his panels on the quilt, and are just sort of reminded of that continuity of people who stood up for us.
The center is hosting a special engagement tonight featuring Miss Judith Jamison, who took over the company after Mr. Ailey passed away. What will you look forward to hearing from her this evening and her journey as the artistic director for the company for so many years?
I'm excited to just, be in her presence. I think that we're all excited about that. The center has played host to lots of legends over the years, and I think we're a young institution, but we were proud to honor Vice President Biden this past year at our dinner, Dr. Bernice King. We love hosting people who are doing meaningful work, and I think we're excited to host yet another superstar.
When we return, my one-on-one interview with former Ailey artistic director Judith Jamison.
Do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
There's this quote from Mr. Ailey that dance was, given
came from
the people and given back. That's right.
Needs to be delivered directly back to
the people.
We are not dancing in a vacuum.
Was that that's become like sort of the company's mantra, and was that his thought when he started?
It's always been the mantra.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt
Oh,
you
no,
like
no,
that.
no, no.
But it's always been the mantra to do that. When you see old pictures of Mr. Ailey in the beginning, when he first started the company, he's teaching people. He's reaching out to people already. It's performance going on, but combined with the performance, you have to stay in touch with the communities that you serve. Otherwise, what in the world are you doing this for? We love showing up. We are entertainers, but we're educators as well. And we're also, here to lift you up and to connect your humanity with everything that's going on that stage. Turn that light on, lift you up, especially after Revelations.
Yeah.
And you feel different when you leave the theater.
You do.
So that mantra of giving back is like, I call it spiritual reciprocity, where we're doing this all the time. We're always doing this. If you get disconnected from that, what are you doing it for? You know what I'm saying? He made that very clear to us just by his genius as a choreographer, and also by the acts of generosity that he would sometimes surprise us with. Choreographers he would bring into the same exact thing that we've been building on all this time. Robert Battle, who's the artistic director, that's exactly what he's doing. That's why I wanted him to come, because he understood the mantra.
Yeah. We're shooting this interview in the beautiful Center for Civil and Human Rights. And, the company was started back in 1958. Was that sort of Mr. Ailey's response to what was happening?
I think it was part of the response, of course. And here we are again.
Yeah.
Hello.
I know, right?
Here we are again. Our protest has always been the excellence of our performances and the things we had to say about African American culture and tradition and the modern dance tradition of our country.
Right.
And making sure we connect with everyone, being accessible, And my goodness, you'll see a piece called Lazarus. That's going on tour by Rennie Battle, the great concert hip-hop choreographer. And he mirrors what Alvin was going through when he was starting the company. He mirrors it in a way and brings it all the way to present time, where we're still grappling and dealing with the same issues. And we are still able to tell you about it. That's the beauty of it. We're still able to make sure you understand the history. And in this piece, Lazarus, at the end of the piece, there's a video recording, a regular recording, where it sounds like Mr. Harris, Rennie Harris, is talking to Mr. Ailey. Wow. He asks him questions, and Mr. Ailey responds from old interviews that he had. Yeah. And at the end of it, he asked Mr. Ailey a question, and you think he's in the room with him, because he goes, Mr. Ailey? He's waiting for an answer. He says, Mr. Ailey, and no one answers. That's the end, right?
Wow.
But just think, this young man, everybody's relatively young to me, but he's coming from being able to understand that the sacrifice that was going on wasn't only on the picket line, wasn't only on the sit-ins, but there were people that were out there trying to hold the banner up of this country. Alvin Ailey, American Dance Theater, trying to hold up the banner and say, we are really human, and we understand this. We want you to understand your humanity. Right. So here, take a look at Revelations. Understand trial, tribulation, triumph through Negro spirituals. I've been rebuked and I've been scorned. Yeah. Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? Fix me, Jesus. Waiting in the water. I want to be ready. I mean, all of this makes sense. You know what? Sinnerman, and then finally, Rock of My Soul is the person of favorite. That's right. Triumphantly, and we're still doing it these many years during our 60th anniversary all over the world. It works. Our truth works, and he was telling the truth, and he was doing it through music, through dance, through his artistry, through his creativity, and we sustain that because we respect that. We sustain that. We stand on his shoulders, yes. And Robert stands on the next shoulders and the next shoulders.
On your shoulders.
And the dancers, all 32 of them.
Yeah.
And you've seen them recently, right? Yeah. Tall weight. There's a guy named Jamar Roberts in the company. He's very tall. He's the tallest guy in the company.
I met him a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Man's a god. What can I say? 6'3" or 4.
Yeah.
And he's created a piece called Members. I always do this wrong. Members. Don't get weary. members don't get weary. Well, is that not a mantra?
Yeah.
Members don't get
Don't
weary.
get weary. Yeah. Wow.
I'm still here.
More with Judith Jamison right after this.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He does the work of 2 jobs, but only gets paid for one. He's tough enough to feed the man that gave him a lifetime of nourishment. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching. That's right. No employee of the month bonus check here. This guy, no, this warrior, will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. Good luck finding a gym to train for that. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
My one-on-one interview with former Ailey artistic director Judith Jamison.
So let's go back to 1971. Cry. This was created for Mr. Ailey's mother and for all mothers around the country. When he presented this piece to you, what went through your mind? What was going on? Like, oh my gosh, this is for me?
I hate to tell you, it was very mundane what went through my mind because I didn't know all that when he was creating it.
Yeah.
I had no idea this was a birthday present for his mother. I had no idea it was dedicated to all black women, especially our mothers. Now the dancers that do it now, they're carrying all that with them.
Yeah.
But when I came on stage, I hadn't run the dance from beginning to end. I was trying to get through the dance. I had just been taught it. We had rehearsed for a couple of weeks, 4 times a week. So so there was none of, thank God, there was none of that weight. The weight of the world on you when you're doing that, because you are carrying everything from a baby to a scrub cloth to a gele crown. It goes, and then you gently put it on the floor, and then you start your sorrow, and that even ends triumphantly. We don't finish anything without ending with you thinking about how hard we work to get there, and look what you have to do now. So all of that wasn't given to me. Mine was get through it, and I almost didn't.
Wow.
Because I hadn't gone from beginning to end in the dress rehearsal, because my costume was wrong. So they changed the costume.
What was it before?
They made a dress. I don't look good in dresses. This is as simple as that. I have never, since I was a child, looked good in a dress. So they pulled up my 4-year-old wading in the water skirt, because that was my part back then, and bought some leotards from around the corner at Capizio's, sewed 2 together because my arms were so long, sewed them together, scooped out the front, scooped down the back, sewed me into it, because it was so old, the zipper was falling down, and it's called Go. Curtain went up. You heard that wonderful Alice Coltrane, something about John Coltrane. It was wonderful music to hear. Laura Nero,
Ride
Bit
on,
on
Be
a
Free
Train,
at the end.
and then finally Ride on, Be Free.
Yeah.
And when you can't feel your body from here down, you know God is alive and well.
Moving. Yeah.
Moving
What did you
to do
enjoy
what
the
you
most
need to do.
about doing that performance?
The response. 'Cause it's hard emotionally and physically. Even the dancers today, who could probably do it 2 times in a row, they're so strong. But when an audience understands what you do, and you can feel it. It's not so much that people are screaming, although they were, and they still do. It's not so much that, it's that you can feel that you've communicated something they understand. They understand exactly what you just did. And that's the most wonderful feeling in the world. I think we all want to be understood, don't we?
We do.
And we do it in different ways. Some of us write, paint, talk, whatever. But to be able to do it without saying a word and to dance
Or sometimes
through that.
just have a look.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, mother taught us that.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is the most gracious thing that he ever could have done for me, other than handing me all the roles that he did, but in particularly keeping my feet on the ground when I was doing Wading in the Water. Because I went from Fix Me Jesus, and then he gave me Wading in the Water, and I went like, you want me to carry a prop? But, I was like through. I was through. And lo and behold, because his choreography is so brilliant, I'm talking about the umbrella in Wading in the Water, the mother of that walks around with the umbrella
Oh my
shading,
gosh. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I thought, oh, prop. And then when you get ready to go out on stage and you hear doom, doom, doom,
Oh my
doom,
gosh.
doom, 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 doom,
which
doom.
is so synonymous with you guys. I mean, every
Right.
time you hear it, it's like, okay,
Right.
where's Ailey? Where's
Yes,
Ailey?
exactly.
Yeah.
So you go
Wow.
out on stage, and when I went out on stage, what happened to me hadn't happened to anyone else, which was I went out on stage, and the dancer in me just went, ooh. And I ended up smiling for it. Nobody had ever smiled for it. I ended
Right.
up smiling for the next 4 years. I
Oh,
was
wow.
Like, but it was genuine because it was the joy of the movement that took, and it's the joy of the movement that takes dancers around the stages of the world. It's what you get from the rich repertory that we have. 75 of those ballets are Mr. Ailey's. The other ballets are from all these choreographers that he discovered, that I discovered, that were discoverable because some of them are very famous and some of them are unknown, and that Robert Battle, who's the artistic director, is bringing in people I never would have thought of. I can't wait for you to see this repertory.
Let's talk about that because Rennie Harris, you had mentioned him earlier for Lazarus, but he is sort of like the first artist in residence for the company this year. So let's talk about that collaboration.
He's the artist in residence, and also he made the first 2-act ballet for the company. We've never had a 2-act ballet. So Robert had the wherewithal to go like, and I must take credit for something because I introduced them to each other. They did a ballet that I directed a long time ago called Love Stories. And I did the first section, and Rennie did the second section, and Robert did the last section. And that these two men discovered each other in such a wonderful, creative way. It's a tribute to Alvin, to say the least, but that Rennie created something, as I say, that mirrors Alvin's life. It mirrors what was going on in '58 because of the situation that we're in now. It's like mirror, okay, it was here, and now here we are. And he reflects that in the first section, which is rather solemn. People are going like, because it's heavy.
Wow.
Brings tears to your eyes. Then the next section is joyous, but underneath that joy, there's something else going on here. It's always the something else that's been there for 400 years. There's something going on, like right here.
Right.
And so it comes together. It comes together, and that's when you hear that voice, and Alvin explaining what this is and what questions need to be answered, and then he leaves you to figure out what those answers should be. And that's what Robert is solving every time he directs the company, and the Ailey dancers understand the legacy that Alvin's left. He left us a roadmap, but the roadmap says, keep growing, keep spreading, keep lifting yourself up, keep lifting others up,
Yeah. What was it about Mr. Battle that when you were getting ready to,
When I chose him.
yeah, pass it on?
Well, number one, he's cute. Y'all look around like, okay. He's gorgeous.
Right.
He's divine inside and outside. He's so talented. That's why I commissioned maybe 3 ballets from him, or 2 ballets from him before, when I was artistic director. So talented. Some of the works I had seen in his smaller company, and he understood the history. That's the idea. You have to be able to tell me you're going to hold this history up.
Right.
You're going to revere this person that made it possible for all of us to be here. Thank God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And once I realized he understood that, plus the talent.
Yeah.
Have you seen his work?
Takadimi. I mean, just, yeah. I mean, that alone.
That's just one,
yeah,
right? Because he
yeah.
has these other works that are huge works. They're doing Juba here. And Juba is wonderful. That's the first work I commissioned from him.
Wow.
Was Juba, yeah.
Let's talk about when you were given this position from Mr. Ailey. He, of course, passed away in, I believe, 88, 89. Was there ever a moment in your running the company that you just felt like, man, I've kind of bit off a little more than I can chew? No? Was it never?
No. Since I was born, there hasn't been anything I felt was like overwhelming me because I felt guided. I grew up in the church. There's nothing. There's nothing. There really isn't. Even though I might feel that way, but you have to realize that when Alvin passed away, there are dancers in the company that are looking to you, like, okay, and they're with you the whole time. the staff, the crew, the dancers, the board of directors, everybody, the whole Ailey family is with you because they want to see this legacy continue. So that made it much easier for me. It wasn't, exactly, jumping through roses all the time, but there was nothing that we couldn't accomplish, not me.
Yeah.
We couldn't accomplish, and we knew it.
There was a time when you stepped away. You went to Broadway. You started your own company.
Oh, yes, I sure did. With Gregory, the late great
Yeah,
Gregory Hyman,
sophisticated ladies.
Late great Phyllis Hyman.
How did that challenge you as a performer?
That was hard. That was really difficult because I had never done the same thing every night, 8 times a week. But what was harder was when I discovered it's not the same thing 8 times a week. And the first time I discovered it, I tripped on my entrance when I came out on stage one night. And Gregory looked at me and went like, "Are you all right?" He didn't give me a hand. He said, "Are you all right?" I was like, okay, lesson learned, right? But I loved working with the Mercedes Ellington was in the corps, you know? And
Hinton Battle, it was
and Mercer Ellington was directing the band. You know, I mean, it was an extraordinary time to listen to the great, brilliant, genius Duke Ellington's music. You know, we're undersung so much that if we don't cheer ourselves, you know, if we don't cheer ourselves on, then you know the history gets twisted all kinds of ways. And we wanted you to know, it's sophisticated ladies. Look at that genius. Look, and the late Donald McHale was choreographing, you know. So that was divine. I had to stop doing a whole lot of things so I could sing, you know. And thank goodness, when I was 10 years old in Philadelphia, growing up and taking Judamar School of Dance, Marion Sujet and all that, I had taken tap lessons, thank you, Jesus, with Gregory Hines.
I know.
You know?
I mean, he was just a super talent.
And now we got Savion. Oh my goodness.
Who's amazing.
Yeah. But uniquely amazing, you know, because everybody's amazing, right? Oh, you're amazing this. You get a prize for that, and you're this and that. We're talking singularly.
This is for you. I wanted to. Are you guys still rolling?
This is actually fabulous. I thank you because this is what Alvin used to give me all the time.
Really?
It's the first time he ever gave women doing cry roses.
Wow.
It's the first time he ever gave women roses for any part. So this means a lot to me.
Oh wow.
Thank you.
No, so I wanted to thank you because last year my Alumni Association honored Mr. John Parks, and I called Chris like 2 days. And I said, Chris, we need a letter from Ms. Jamison to send, you know, and you wrote this letter and he sent it was a beautiful letter.
I did?
Yeah.
No, as soon as I see it, I'll look at it and go like, I did.
I had to bring it up. But I just wanted to say
put my hand on
thank you for that because he was just, he's still talking about it.
You know, he partnered me.
Can we talk about that?
Sure,
can we talk about
He partnered me and he also created a piece for me called Nubian Lady.
Really?
Yes, he did. John was a matinee idol. That's what he was. You know, he was very special. I mean, all of us were very special to Alvin. And John was. What was nice about Ailey men is that, and still is, they're totally unique in their look. You know, and you know, John Parks has a look. It's all. Arms forever long, and I used to have to do behind him holding that umbrella.
Wow.
Wading in the water.
Oh my gosh.
He was. I wish there might be old tapes of him in Congress or somewhere, but he was an amazing artist, and he was also a gentleman, and he has that great deep voice, you know. And he came on stage without forced. What can I say it? Without a forced masculinity, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't, I'm here, you know, and I'm tall and I'm, you know. He came on stage simply, and then you went, yes.
Because he has such a big presence,
a huge presence, literally and figuratively. And I adored working with him because he was my partner for a couple of ballets. I adored working with him. And he was tall enough for me because, you know, it's difficult, you know. Now it isn't so much, but it was difficult back then. I used to be 5'10". I think I shrunk an inch, but 5'10", and he's 6 foot something. So that helps when you have a partner that's that long, as long as you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
this.
Upfront Inside Atlanta's entertainment industry is produced by Jazz 91.9 WCLK and airs every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. You can also listen online at WCLK.com.